So I would like to do a short demonstration of the iPad and the features of it. As you hold your iPad up, at the very bottom is the home button. This is the button that you use to turn it on if it's sleeping, and also to bring it back to the home screen, which we'll talk about later on. So that's at what I would call the bottom of the iPad. At the top of the iPad, you can't see it because it's black, but there is a camera right in the middle up at the top here. So if you're doing a FaceTime or a selfie, you want to look into that camera. Also at the top is a little round circle. That is where you can plug in your headphones. If you have Bluetooth, you don't need to plug them in there. You can just use a headphone set that can respond to Bluetooth. On the other side is an on-off switch that if you click it once quickly, it puts your device to sleep. If you hold it down, it will actually turn it off. You'll get a prompt to slide it to turn it off, and then you would have to hold it again to turn it back on. That's called a hard on and off. Right? Now, while we are at the top here, let's turn it around and let's look here. That is your back camera. So if you are taking a picture of something and you're using that back camera, you want to line it up with that. On the side are two buttons. This is the up and the down volume button. So that's how you would adjust the volume. At the bottom is the connector. You can connect to your power. And then you see these two things here. Those are speakers. That's where your sound comes out. So basically that's the iPad, and the remainder of our topics will be discussed looking at an iPad. All right, next we're going to look at the iPad itself. As you look at the bottom of the screen, this is called a taskbar, and that's where you can keep your favorite apps. In just a moment, we're going to show you how to move your apps so you can change that taskbar to any apps that you would like. This is called the home screen, and every icon is an app. In order to open an app, you just tap on it and it will open. To return back to the home screen, you push the home button on the device. Connecting to the internet, you go to settings, which is the icon here, and then you find your Wi-Fi. You can click on that, and then you can modify that depending on what Wi-Fi you want to use. If there's a lock there, it means that it's locked and it needs a password. So if you want to use another one, you would tap on that. And if it needs a password, it'll come up like this. If you don't know the password, then you're not able to use that. An Apple ID is the email and password that is associated with your account. If you tap on your account, you can see the Apple ID, which is associated with your account, listed below. Whenever you go to download something from the iTunes, or if you want to go to iCloud or anything like that, you'll need your password. You're still in settings, and let's scroll down to where it says Touch ID and passcode. Now this one already has a passcode, so I have to enter that passcode in order to get into my device. I have already set it up for fingerprint. In order to add a fingerprint, you would tap where it says Add a Fingerprint, and then you are going to be putting your finger on the home button repeatedly. And you can see as you're doing it, the red is filling up. So just keep doing it, and if you click, then you'll get this warning saying you clicked. So you don't want to click, just hit continue, and then continue trying to fill in all the lines. When you've filled in all the lines, then it will tell you to get the edges of your print. So hit continue, and then put in the edge of your finger. There we go. We want to make sure we get all angles, and now it's complete, so now continue. And then you decide which of these following services you want to use your Touch ID for. And right now, all 4 of them are enabled, but if there's something you don't want to use it to your Touch ID for, you can just turn it off. And then if you change your mind, turn it back on. You can have, I believe, up to 10 fingerprints there. You must have a passcode in order to use a fingerprint. Gestures. Kind of hard to demonstrate this, but there are several different gestures that you would use on your iPad. One of them is a tap. And by the way, with your gestures, it needs to feel your finger. You can't do it with your fingernail. You have to have your finger there. And it's a light touch. It's not a heavy touch because there's a difference between a heavy touch and a light touch. So if a heavy touch is when you press and hold, that's a heavy touch. And you can see when I pressed and held that icon, it came up with a whole menu of things related to that particular app. So in order to get rid of that, I can just tap anywhere on the screen and that goes away. Let's see what happens when I press and hold photos. So this way I can see my most recent photos and I can see favorites. But as we're pressing down on these, you'll notice one thing in common: edit home screen. So if you click on that, then you are able to move your icons around. So that press and hold is what you would use to organize your iPad. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Press the home button to make them stop jumping around like that. Another way to use your gestures is to press and hold and edit the screen. And then you're going to drag. So dragging is another way to edit your screen. So we did tap and drag. Another is a swipe. So if you swipe from the upper right-hand corner down, you can see the control panel. If you swipe from the very top to the down, you can see if you have any notifications. And you can slide it back up when you're done. All right, so that's gestures. Next, we're going to talk about orientation. Right now, it's in landscape mode. If I turn my device, then you can see now I am in portrait mode. Landscape, portrait. Now, if that irritates you, you can set it at one or the other. So if you like the landscape mode, for example, you can go back to that control panel we showed you. So you take your finger in the upper right, pull it down, the control panel opens up, and on the control panel you can see a lock with a arrow going around it. Currently it is unlocked, so that means I can put it in portrait mode or I can put it in landscape mode. If I tap that once, it's going to be locked in the orientation it's currently in. So now that I've locked it, if I bring it back and I try to turn it, nothing happens. So it's locked in the landscape mode. The next thing on our handout is Find My iPad. I can see that I actually have that on my desktop. If I tap on Find My, when I click on Device, it will tell me where the device is located. Now these would be anything that is connected to that Apple iPad. So currently all of our iPads are turned off so we can't see them, but you can see that this one is located in this spot. So this is a very useful tool. You can also get the same tool by going to any web browser and typing in iCloud.com. And then you'd be able to locate your device if it's missing. So if you're not sure where you left it, this is a good trick to use. So you have to make sure, though, that Find My iPad is turned on. So you would go back to Settings, and then you would go to iCloud, you would go to Find My, and you want to make sure it's on, okay? And you can share your location. The nice thing about that is if you have someone that you want them to know where you are all the time, you can share your location with them, and you can always they can always find you depending on where your iPad is. You can choose any wallpaper, they're called, any background for that. So in order to do that, you click on Settings again, and then you're going to go to Wallpaper. And you can see currently these are the two that we have. Okay, up near the top, you can change your wallpaper. So I can tap on that, and you have the choice of things that come with the program. So dynamic, these are, this is wallpaper that would be sort of moving around in the background, or static, stills. These are ones that are just going to sit there. Okay. Or you can choose any of the photos that are in your photo album. So I think this is kind of a pretty photo, so I'm going to use that, and I'm going to set that, and I'm going to set that for my home screen. So then it's setting the wallpaper, and then when it's done, you can see, as I go back to home, that has now been changed to a new wallpaper. The control center. So we already kind of mentioned the control center, but let's look at it again. So you take your finger from the upper right part of the iPad and slide it down. And then you can see a number of different icons. So the first is the airplane mode. If you're flying and you want to turn off all the Wi-Fi and all the messaging, you would click on that. This is AirDrop. The AirDrop enables you to share a file, a document, a picture, a short film clip with another Apple device that is located very close to you within the same room. So what you can do in the control center here is you could turn it on or off depending on if you want to use it. So if it's set for everyone, then if someone near you says, hey, I want to share this picture with you, and you say, okay, let's use AirDrop, you'll be able to see that. Now realize all this is doing is giving you settings. This is not allowing you to AirDrop anything. You're not actually AirDropping, you're just setting your settings. Okay, this is music, so you can actually start and stop your music from the control panel. Nice if you're listening to music and you have to turn it off very quickly. This is the lock icon. We've already shown you that. That's for the orientation. Right now it's locked in landscape. I can unlock it, and that means if I turned it, it can go into portrait or landscape. I'm going to keep it in landscape though. The next icon is Do Not Disturb. By clicking on that, then you can't get any phone calls or any notifications or anything like that while you're in your session. This is where you'd click if you had an Apple TV and you were trying to use your iPad to stream an HBO movie or an iTunes movie from your iPad to your TV. So you would click on that, you would look for the Apple TV, which has to be in the same network, and then you would be able to share. This is your notifications, your sound notifications. So if you don't want any of those little ding-dings going on, you can click on that. Okay, this is a clock, and in the clock you could set a timer, you can see a world clock, just all different sorts of features in the clock one. You should check that out. This is an app that's located on your device. It's called the Notes app. So by clicking on that, it gives you an opportunity to set up a note. Now the beauty of this is that whatever you type, whatever you create, is going to be on the cloud. In order to create a new note, you would come up here and click on the box with the pencil, and the keyboard pops up. And since we're here, let's cover the keyboard next. I know it's on our handout, but whenever you're going to type in something, the keyboard pops up. And it starts with the capitals. You can see that the black arrow signifies that all the letters will be capital. So I'm going to start off with my first letter, and then that is capital. Now notice after that, they're no longer capital. So let's say I want a whole line of capitals. So in order to do that, or to do capitals until I stop, I would click that arrow twice. And when I click the arrow twice, and you can see it's a black arrow with a line beneath it. So now everything will be capitals the whole time. Okay, so that is, and then when you hit return on your device, that takes you to another line. Of course, the space bar looks like that, as does the microphone. Don't forget to buy milk, period. We've also got emoticons, so you can click on that and find an emoticon that you want to use. Okay, and then to get back, you can click on the ABC, and that takes you back. If you want to do numbers, you can click on where the number symbol is. Okay. If you want to do symbols, and you can see them here, you can just tap on those. If you want more symbols that aren't there, you can click on this icon, and you can see that even more symbols come up. All right. If you want to make the keyboard disappear, you would click on the keyboard down there. All right, so that was a little bit on the keyboard, and that was sort of a sidetrack note because I know we're still working on the control panel. So let's go back and finish with the control panel. This is your camera. By tapping on that, it'll take you to your camera. It's a quick way to get to it. Press the home button to escape that. Okay, and then the other two things, this is screen brightness. You can slide up to make your screen more bright, down to make it less bright. The brighter it is, the more battery it's using. One more thing about the control center. If there's something that you would like to see and you're not finding it on there, you can go to settings and then you can look for control panel. And then you can customize your controls. So these are the ones that are currently on my control center, and these are more that I can use. So now let's go back and look at our control panel, and you can see we have a few more things on there. So this one is the accessibility shortcuts. This one is the Apple remote. This is the voice recorder. Okay, so that was the control center. Recent apps. So every time we open up a window and then we hit the home button to close it, the windows kind of stay open. If you want to go and find those windows, you can double click on your home button and now you can see those windows. So you can either tap to get directly to that window, or you can close that window if you no longer need that window. Now, you don't have to close all the windows all the time. You're not really using a lot of memory or a lot of space. If you do close them, it might take a little bit more battery to start up an app, though. So if there's an app you think you're going to be using a lot, just kind of keep it open until you're done with it. You can clean it with a soft, slightly damp cloth, and don't use any window cleaners or anything. All right, now let's get into organizing our iPad. So we've sort of covered some of this already, but for the first one, we want to rearrange our apps, press and hold, and then edit home screen. And then we can just take that and move that around any way we want. So you can move your icons around to different places. I told you we'd look at the taskbar down here. If you want to take something out of the taskbar, you can drag it out, and then you can add something else in there if you would like. The nice thing about the taskbar is that as you move from page to page, those stay there. So the ones you're using the most should be there in the taskbar. Okay, you might want to create a folder. So a folder is when you can put one or more apps in a certain location. So I created one recently called Apple Products. The way that I did this was I just took one app and I put it on, I left click and dragged and put it on the top of another, and all of a sudden it starts to develop a folder. So then from there I can tap on a screen, I can add more things within that folder, and you can see as I'm adding these things, you know, they're going into the folder. I can name the folder by tapping on the name, and I'm just saying, obviously you want to put in apps that are related because that would be the purpose of a folder. Hit done. Hit anywhere on the screen to close the folder. Deleting apps from folders, you can slide it out. And you can do that with all the apps if you want. Once they've all left, your folder is gone. Okay, to delete an app, you can just click on the X while it's jumping around here, and that will delete the app for you. If there's no X next to it, it means that you can't delete that app. To make it stop jumping around, you can just click the home button and then the jumping around will stop. Let's talk about the App Store. By clicking on the A, you can get to the App Store. And in the App Store, you can either look at what's going on today, and they will have some of the different apps. They might have a little bit of news. They might have some things that they think you might like. And in fact, let's look at an app that helps you to relax, because this is a very stressful time. So I'm going to tap on that, and let's say I'm interested in this headspace. So if I tap on that once, I can see what the app looks like. But before I start to use it, I'm going to have to look and make sure that it's something that is a respectable app and not something I might have to worry about down the line. So the thing I noticed is it's got 4.9 out of 5 stars. That's pretty darn good. With over 666,000 ratings, that's good too. The Apple Store gives it an editor's choice. That's a good sign. And it's number 2 on the health and fitness sites, apps. So that's a good thing. As we come down here, you've got reviews. Okay, so you've said, okay, I will use this app now. If it says get, it's a free app. Now there might be additional costs once you have your app. And now it's asking you that password. So remember, the Apple ID is the email address, and the password is the one that you set up. And then I can also use my touch as well. Okay. So while that circle is turning, it means that it's loading up. It's downloading that app to my device. And when it's done, it will say open. So if I tap on open, the app will open. Sign up for it, and that is how the App Store works. Okay, next we're going to talk about Siri. Siri is your digital assistant. In order to get Siri, you have to make sure that she is enabled in your settings. So when you go to settings, you would go to Siri and search, and you would make sure that at least one of these is on. You can change the language of Siri. You could change her voice. As far as pressing the home for Siri, some people find that a little bit annoying, because if you press the home button too long, you're going to get Siri. So if you don't like that, and if that happens to you all the time and it gets irritating, you could just turn that off. Okay? Siri, an important question like, what time does the sun set tonight? Okay, our device uses the web browser called Safari. You can download other web browsers from the App Store if you would like, but let's just look briefly at Safari to see how that works. This is what you would use if you want to access a website that you don't have an app for. So in order to use, you can just type in any type of a address. Now, here's a little trick. There's a website you visit often. If that is the case, then what you might want to do is you might want to create a shortcut on your iPad. In order to do that, you would tap on the share icon, and then you would scroll and you would click on Add to Home Screen. Once you do that, you can see the name of the site. So this is the name of the site. I can change that if I want by tapping on that. Done, you would hit Add. The screen will close, but then you can see that your new app is there on your desktop, and if you tap on that, it will open in the web browser at that site. That's a good way to create a shortcut on your iPad. Okay, some of the other functions, if you want to go to a new tab, you click on the plus sign to go to a new site. I can add it as a bookmark, and you can see that it's located under favorites. All right, so I showed you the reading list and the bookmark. Let's see if we could find that. So located up next to the address bar is this book. Here you will see 3 options. So the first one are your bookmarks. So these are the bookmarks that you have created. Next, we have the eyeglasses. That's the reading list. The third is what you have done recently on Safari, the downloads and things. Now, I haven't done any downloads on this iPad, so that's not going to show up. But if I had, that would show up there. So those are all the different things that you can do with the Safari web browser. Let's talk about email. So your iPad comes with several native apps. And these are apps that are related to your iCloud account. And those include Contacts, Mail, Calendar, and Notes. When you go to Settings, you can set up which accounts will be linked to those native apps. Now before I do that, let's go back to my screen and let's realize that you may have a Gmail account. And if you don't link it in Settings, it's not going to show up in the mail here. And you can see there is a Gmail account showing up here. That's because we've linked it in there. In just a moment, I'm going to show you what happens when we don't have that linked. So right now, take a good look at it. We've got all the different, in our mailbox, we've got all mailboxes, and we've got the iCloud mailbox, and the Gmail, and the AOL. Okay? So now let's go back. Let's go to Settings. Let's go to Gmail. And you can see I've already set up a Gmail account for this device, and I've enabled Mail, Contacts, Calendars, and Notes. Let's just say I decide to disable Mail. What happens then? Let's go back. Let's open up Mail. All of a sudden, there's hardly anything in my mailbox. There's only the iCloud and the AOL accounts. And I did that just by turning it off in Settings. If I opened it back up, those emails will pop back up. So it's very easy to turn off and on your mail, and realize it's the same with Contacts, Calendars, and Notes. If you tend to use Gmail more than anything else, you can consider downloading the Gmail app, and then you can have it open just in the Gmail program. You could also download a Google Calendar instead of the Apple Calendar if that's what you prefer. Then there's Maps. So this is Apple Maps, and I think we've probably used them before, but you can put in your home address, your work address. You can tap on a place or location. I want to find a place where I can get tested for COV, and looks like I can do that at Kaiser over there in La Mesa. So there you go, and then I've got a little map, so I want some directions to that, and it's going to use my location. Your location services has to be on. Let's go to Settings, and let's go to Privacy. Let's go to Location Services, and then let's go to Maps. And I'm going to enable while using the app. So now, when I go back to Maps and open it up, now it knows where I am, and it tells me how I can get there via these directions. And you can choose one of these. So you just click Go, and then it'll open in that, and it will tell you how to get to where you're trying to go. So a very handy app. Photos, when you tap on that app, you can see all the photos that are on your device. You can create albums. You can share albums with others. If you want to share an album with someone, you can select, and you could say select all, and then you've got the share icon up here. And then again, you can airdrop them. So if you guys are at a family reunion, if you have two people with iPhones, you can take all your photos from one, and you can click on airdrop. And if there's someone nearby with an iPhone that has everyone enabled, you'll be able to see their name. You can tap on their name, and all those files will be transferred. Very handy. You can also send them via email or Gmail. Now, if you have a lot of photos, like in this case, you might not be able to send them all through mail. You might have to send them via a link. Let's go back to our location services. And this is one way that people really get nervous about how they're being tracked. For example, the Find My and the Maps and the camera, those are all important to have while you're using them. You know, maybe you don't need the calendar, but maybe you do need the calendar, because what if you've gone outside of your time zone? And so you put something on the calendar, you get really confused if it doesn't know where you are. For news, if you want local news, you probably want to save just from using the app. So you can see as you look at these, some of these are more important than others. And then down here at the bottom, it's telling you that if you see a hollow arrow, that means that sometimes that app might use your location. A purple arrow indicates an item has recently used your location, and we just did that, so that's okay. A gray arrow indicates an item has used a location in the past 24 hours. Well, we looked at those while we were talking about the different apps that we have. So those are all examples of what you can set in location services. And that's all we'll talk about today. There's so much more that you can do on the iPad. That's just a taste of it, but I think that will get you through some of the major issues. So good luck.